For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We start today in South America's largest nation, Brazil, where new polls have been released ahead of the presidential runoff election set for October 26th. While some polls have shown market-friendly neoliberal candidate Aécio Neves leading by 1 or 2 points, a Vox Populi survey this week shows Dilma Rousseff leading Neves by 1 percentage point. The poll has a 2-point margin of error, meaning the race is at a statistical tie, with what many see as media hype surrounding the polling and the ups and downs in this race already. Some Brazilians are simply tuning out any predictions.
Now, in the second round, everyone's perspective, as much for us on the left as for those on the right, is to not pay attention anymore to the polls.
In a more certain campaign development in Brazil, representatives from the Movement of Rural Workers Without Land and the Central Workers Confederation have officially endorsed incumbent Dilma Rousseff. They are joined by 450 other Brazilian social organizations. The groups call for a petition campaign to push through political reforms. Rousseff says she supports the move.
I deeply believe that the only way we are able to create conditions for the mother of all reforms, political reform, is through protest, mobilization, popular participation.
And to Bolivia, the Electoral Council has officially confirmed the victory of incumbent President Evo Morales. Only 42% of the votes have officially been counted. The council can already make the call because of Morales' enormous lead over his closest opponents. Exit polls show that the president earned roughly 60% of the vote compared with his nearest rivals, 25%. That will give Morales another 5 years to continue what he calls a path of intensive development. In an exclusive interview with Telesur, Morales spoke of the significance of his victory.
What happened yesterday was historic, really historic and unprecedented. At last, a political movement has unified the country. This is why I have said, this is no honeymoon. This is Bolivia's full moon.
We turn now to our Mexico correspondent Clayton Kahn for an update on the 43 missing students in the state of Guerrero and the social unrest surrounding the disappearances. Clayton.
Today begins a 48-hour strike of students by Mexico's largest public university, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, or UNAM, in solidarity with the families and classmates of the 43 forcibly disappeared students from the Ayotzinapa Teachers Training College in the state of Guerrero. As we recall, the students were attacked and presumably disappeared by at least dozens of agents of the municipal police in the town of Iguala on September 26. Various mobilizations and actions are expected to occur throughout the country as widespread clamor continues to grow over how federal and Guerrero state authorities are handling the case. Yesterday, students, teachers, and family that disappeared occupied the state Congress building and mayor's office in the Guerrero state capital, Chilpancingo, demanding the return alive of the students, the destitution of the state governor, Angel Aguirre, and the detention and prosecution of Iguala Mayor Jose Luis Abarca, who remains a fugitive.
And thanks to Clayton. Elsewhere in Latin America today, a 7.4 earthquake has killed 1 person in El Salvador. The victim of the quake was killed when an electricity post fell during the seismic activity. The quake was felt all over Central America. San Miguel City in El Salvador has seen some structural damage, according to its mayor. Early warnings of tsunamis were later canceled. In Paraguay, social organizations and politicians have taken to the streets in protest again, denouncing President Horacio Cortés's privatization policies. Diverse social organizations slammed the president's neoliberal politics, which many say exploits the country's farmers. Airport workers are also resisting the partial privatization of their industry. Demonstrations are part of a widespread rejection of Cortés's government. And to Peru, where the first conference of American defense ministers began Monday in the historic city of Arequipa. Peruvian President Ollanta Humala opened the summit, bringing together delegates from 34 American countries who aim to increase military cooperation, humanitarian aid, and environmental protection in the region. Organized crime, UN peacekeeping operations, and rescue operations for disappeared people are also on the agenda. In world news, instead of expected strikes on Islamic State group targets, Turkey bombed 2 Kurdish guerrilla bases Tuesday. It violates the fragile ceasefire between the Ankara and the PKK, who have experienced a decades-long armed struggle for Kurdish rights in the country. Led by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Turkey has been accused of deliberately ignoring the plight of Kurdish fighters in the Syrian town of Kobani over the past month. Many say Turkey's inaction is in hopes of diminishing the fighting capacity of the Kurdish resistance. Last week, at least 35 people were killed in protests demanding the government help the citizens of Kobani. We go to the United States, where 4 days of peaceful protests have come to a close in Ferguson, Missouri. They included marches, rallies, vigils, and teach-ins. Over 50 protesters were arrested. Organizers have dubbed the action Ferguson October. It refers to the town where unarmed teen Mike Brown was shot dead by a police officer in July. Protests in the St. Louis area were renewed after a second black teen, Bondurant Myers, was shot last week. Protesters hope to draw attention to what they call systemic failures within police forces.
It's way bigger than Ferguson. It's about all Black Lives Mattering everywhere. And it's about making sure that we are building a national movement led by young people and directly impacted people to show that Black Lives Matter and that we will not stand while state violence does, that we will fight until it's over.
The UK government voted Monday to recognize the existence of Palestine. While the decision will not alter government policy, the motion carries symbolic value as the Palestinians seek unilateral recognition at the UN. The measure passed by an overwhelming 274-12 vote. Israel has condemned the move, saying it could undermine peace efforts with Palestine. UK Prime Minister David Cameron refused to vote. The developments in the UK come as UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon made a visit to Gaza. With the latest, here's our correspondent in Gaza, Noor Herzine.
It's a historic day in the Gaza Strip today as Ban Ki-moon is visiting the enclave this morning. We are standing in front of Bahrain UN school. This school is still packed up with families who fled their homes during the Israeli ground invasion on the Gaza Strip. And now we are expecting Ban Ki-moon to arrive to the school and to enter the school to see what's the situation in the Gaza Strip on the ground and talk to these families about their situations living until now, almost 2 months after the war, in UN shelters. Later today, Ban Ki-moon will have another visit to another school in northern Gaza. He will hold a conference there talking to the people of Palestine.
To Spain now, where Catalonia's President Artur Mas says that the region has canceled its upcoming independence vote. Residents of Catalonia have long expressed wishes for more autonomy from Spain. Spain's national government called the referendum illegal. That's despite the fact that it met the requirements of local laws. The move has drawn condemnation from inside and outside Catalonia, with many calling it undemocratic. Catalonia generates 1/5 of Spain's GDP, and Catalonians speak a distinct language. And to Liberia now, where frontline healthcare workers are being urged not to strike over low hazard pay. The Liberian Health Ministry says a strike would have negative consequences for patients. The National Health Care Workers Association is demanding an increase in pay for the risks of working with such a contagious epidemic. They also demand better personal protective equipment. Finally, on a lighter note, Venezuela is using its renowned classical music program known as El Sistema, or the System, to help fetal development. Public hospitals are embracing what is now known about child development, that fetuses can hear 3 months before birth. The music is being used to calm expectant mothers. El Sistema was introduced in 1975 as a way to educate and reduce violence, mostly among poor children, using classical music. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle.